With the Dungeons and Lasers Pledge Manager opening soon, I'd figure I'd give a few buying guides to those new backers who may be a little confused by the complexity of the options you have for this Kickstarter and buying stuff. And this buying guide will actually be for those who want a dungeon setup. For those such buyers, you'll want to start off with the Village Pledge, and as your main choice, you'll take the Fantasy Core Set. The Fantasy Core Set is very dungeon oriented, although you can also use it with the Sewers Core Set pretty well. You'll then pick out 3 rooms, and I've highlighted the 3 dungeon oriented rooms: Cursed Cathedral, Dwarven Mine, Hall of Heroes, Torture Chamber, and Warlock Altar. You can certainly use, say, the Stone Tower and Royal Castle tiles for a dungeon, but these 5 I would point you towards first. My particular one that I liked is the Cursed Cathedral because, as you can see on the right, I've made a sort of cutaway building, and you can use a building like this for above the dungeon or such. The Dwarven Mine is good if you want to mine. Hall of Heroes is good if you have, say, a Dwarven stronghold or such. Torture Chamber if you have a castle with an evil despot. And the Warlock Altar I actually found is pretty good if you have some crazy cultists who are into pentagrams and such. Now, the rooms are sold without doors, same with the core set. And you have 2 choices for doors. On the top row, I'm showing off the closed door set. And you can see how it has 2 generic fantasy doors. And then here's a Warlock's Altar door, which actually makes a good generic portal for a high-level dungeon. And this is the Hall of Heroes door, which has a sort of a dwarven type, as you can see, it's a dwarven type influence. The closed door sells for €4 or about $5 or $6, and will also come with 4 different science fiction doors. If you have science fiction games like Imperial Assault, then you can take these doors. You can see these, see the parts that insert into the clips. You can insert them into a clip, and the door will stand up by itself. Now, many people will also want, or will want instead, doors that open and close. And those are the functional doors. The functional doors will come with 2 sprues, and the doors will come in these designs. Each design is specific for a set, however. You will see how, for example, the Warlock door will not fit into a Cursed Cathedral archway. What you will actually do is you'll take, say, here's the Cursed Cathedral the Cursed Cathedral door. You'll take the door, you'll glue it to one of your doorways with these hinges. And it's best if you, for example, you picked up all 5 rooms, then you are set. You'll have the door for your core set and each of the 5 rooms. But if you only pick a few, you will have some functional doors left over. So in the case that you only have, say, 3 rooms and not all 5, you'll want to pick up the Doorway Fantasy themes. And you can see here, for example, if you didn't pick up the mine, you would have your mine door that fit into the mine doorway. In addition, you will get 4 roof tiles. These are the single square roof tiles. They're only available in this set. And if you intend to build something for your above ground, then you'll find these useful. In addition to the doors, I recommend picking up a set of second edition connectors. You're going to get some in your Village Pledge, but it's only €4, and you'll get plenty of connectors in order to do setups like these. It's also good for if you have a lot of corridors, and it's just basically good just in case. The stretch goals, first edition and second edition, are highly recommended because they have so much value. If you're new to the hobby, you may not realize that for about €17 or $20, this is a fantastic bargain if you compared to buying these pieces individually. And I've highlighted that in the first edition stretch goals, you'll have stairways. They can stay over here. And the stairways are good if you have a multi-level dungeon. I will mention that the first edition stretch goals include science fiction pieces. So again, if you have games like Imperial Assault, then you'll find these little science fiction bits to be nice dressing to your games. The Fantasy Stretch Goals second edition, it doesn't have as many necessary pieces, but at least all the pieces will be fantasy related. I highlighted here some rubble. For some reason, rubble tends to be pretty important, and you can also use it as scatter terrain in various games or such. Now I should mention that almost all the items that I've mentioned are rapid delivery. Everything, so it's possible to, so you'll purchase the rapid delivery option. You'll get for wave 1 almost all the sets that I've showed you, and for wave 2 you get a priority, as well as getting the Townfolk starter set, which will contain 60 miniatures, and you will also get the 3rd edition stretch goals, which contain both the terrain unlocks and additional townsfolk miniatures. The best reason for having the rapid delivery is that it breaks your shipment up into two sets, and you will get a lot of tiles, and it's really good to have some time to spend on the first half and some on the second. Now, for those of you who want all 5 of the rooms, you can also take a second village pledge, in which you will choose the Sewers core set. Or you can choose another fantasy core set. What I liked about the Sewers core set was that even though it's a smaller set and not as generic as the fantasy core set, you can see over here how the sewer tile fits pretty well with the fantasy core set. And I find it, even though it's a transparent tiles, which are slightly harder to paint, I just got some Tamiya clear paint for the surface here, and then some Army Painter green wash in order to give it so you can see the ripples and whatnot. And then you paint these tiles normally by hand. You don't need to do any spray painting. And the sewer tiles can be used in your standard dungeon to surprise all those players. When in your second village pledge, you pick up the remaining rooms, so now you have these 5, and plus an additional one, which I would sort of go for the Royal Castle. If you can see over here in the stone tower, they have all those little windows. The Royal Castle doesn't have all those little windows, so we can use it again as maybe a special room inside of your dungeon. So that's pretty much the buying guide. Get a village pledge with a fantasy core set and 3 of the fantasy rooms for your dungeon, or get 2 village pledges, one with the fantasy core set and one with the sewer core sets, all 5 of the fantasy rooms, and maybe the castle. So hopefully that will give you some direction which way to pledge, and enjoy your tiles when you receive them in both waves.